Hello, welcome to Parent Playbook. I'm Dr. Rona Hu. I'm a psychiatrist. I'm a faculty member at the Stanford University School of Medicine, and I'm the mother of a teenager. And guess which one of those jobs is the hardest? So we're here tonight to talk about parenting because the teenage years are difficult. And do you ever feel like you and your teenager are speaking different languages? Or maybe you and your teenager really are speaking different languages. So my colleagues and I from Stanford Department of Psychiatry are from diverse backgrounds, and we wanted to be able to help you with a guidebook. Tonight's Parent Playbook is for South Asian families, but you will find that many of the issues can be pertaining to many of you. We have different situations from real life, such as having a bad grade, a child bringing home a date that the parent doesn't like, or the child disrespecting the parent. So unlike real life, you can press pause and rewind and replay. So tonight we'll be showing a vignette the way it happened in real life. We'll stop, and then we'll play it over again with different results. Tonight our skit is called Bad at Math, and it was written by Bharat Sampathy, who is a Gunn High School graduate who's now a medical student at University of California, Irvine, but came back to Palo Alto in order specifically to work with our group. Playing the father tonight is Dr. Shashank Joshi, who is a Stanford psychiatrist, and I, as the moderator, will jump in at a magic time and press pause, rewind, and replay. You'll help me during the pause part, ask questions, maybe make suggestions to the dad and the teenager to do things differently. We will be focusing mostly on what the dad can do differently, but we plan future skits on what the teenager can do differently. So we'll press rewind and replay, and this time the dad will handle the situation a little bit differently. We'll see what happens. Ready? Come with us. And action.
Dad, you know that math test I took last week?
Huh. The one you spent hours studying for.
Yeah, I got a 48.
48. 48 out of 50.
No, I got a 48%.
48%?
Yeah.
What is going on? That's the third time this semester.
I don't know, Dad, the class is just too hard. I tried really hard this time. I just don't know what to do. It's just, I think I need to drop down to math level.
Are, this is ridiculous. What is this? You're not trying hard enough. If you're having trouble with something, you just have to make it better. You just don't know what you're doing.
I'm trying hard. I tried really hard. I already told you I tried really hard, and I don't know. I'm just not smart enough for this class, I guess. I just need to figure it out. I can't do this class.
When I was your age, I had to study 9 or 10 times to get it right. I'd have to go to the next state. I'd have to take the train to write the exam. Okay? I spoke with Sanjeev's mom about math. He's getting A's on all the tests. I just don't understand this. All you and your friends care about what? Video games and Snapchat and all these other things. You need to wake up. Life is not a joke. Okay, at this age, you won't even get into the community college.
Dad, I mean, I don't know how many times I have to tell you this, but can you just stop comparing me to Sanjeev? I hate it when you compare me to him. When I tell you all the fun things my friends are doing, you tell me not to compare. Like, that's not fair. You're such a hypocrite.
Well, sounds like you're independent enough to figure this out for yourself. You can come back and talk to me when you're ready another time.
Fine.
Okay, freeze. This seems like a good time to stop and press pause. If we could do this in real life. Dad, how are you feeling?
So frustrating. I'm trying to show him what it's going to take to be successful. I'm trying to tell him what I did, what he needs to do. He doesn't listen.
Okay. How's it feeling to you?
If he spent as much time with math as he does with video games and online, he'd be top of the class.
Bharat, have a seat. Let's hear what you have to say.
Well, first of all, I'm listening to what my dad said, but I tried really hard. I tried my best, and it just didn't work out. And my dad just thinks it's because I'm on social media all the time, and I'm not. I tried hard on this test.
Okay. I hear both of you. I noticed something interesting. You said that you told him about what you did. I heard that. How did that feel to you?
I don't know, it didn't really help me. Like, what my dad did 30 years ago doesn't really apply to what I'm doing right now, and it just didn't help me in the situation. I'm already feeling kind of bad that I failed a math test, my third one, and my dad telling me about all the stuff he did, and it just didn't help.
I was a teenager too. I know about all the distractions. Back in the day, we didn't have social media, but we had movies. We'd slip out, we'd go to a movie. Not tell you, we are friends who tell your parents you went somewhere to go study, you went out.
Okay, so you remember some of the temptations of that, and it sounds like you did sneak out a couple of times, but now that he has other temptations, it's harder for you to see. I mean, you yourself said there's more of this now, so that's one thing.
I feel like we have to stay on top of them all the time. So I was trying to use my own example of when I was distracted and how hard it was, and I get how hard it is, but he just needs to work harder.
Okay, and then another thing that I noticed, if you don't mind my saying so, was that when you mentioned Sanjeev, Bharat, immediately his entire body changed, your entire body language changed. Tell me about Sanjeev. Who's that?
I mean, Sanjeev's one of my closest friends growing up, but every time my dad compares me to him, I just hate it, and it's hard for me to hang out with him now, because every time I hang out with him, I just think about how my dad compares me to him all the time, and how my dad just thinks Sanjeev is better than I am.
But I don't think he's better than you. I'm trying to use, because he's a good friend, I'm trying to use it as some sort of motivating force for you.
Well,
if he can do it, you can do it.
Do you find it motivating when your wife compares somebody else to you, or your boss? Does that feel good?
You know, I was trying to connect with him in some way by using an everyday example, but obviously it's not helpful.
I wonder if there was someone when you were growing up that your parents compared you to. Yeah? When I grew up, it was someone named Vivian.
When I grew up, someone named Pankaj. Every turn, everything I did, Pankaj could do it better.
And Vivian danced better than me and played piano better than me, and she had better grades. But I didn't end up liking her, and it didn't end up making me feel very good about my parents either. I wonder if people in the audience have also seen sibling rivalry, cousins. It doesn't actually help the child feel more motivated. Sometimes it drives a wedge. Other things that people may notice, and audience members can chime in at any time if you have questions or comments. I'm wondering in terms of, when you said, you feel so independent, then, you have it all figured out. Did you really mean that? Was it something where you were, I wonder.
I don't really think, sometimes I don't think he needs my help. He doesn't need my guidance. He has it all figured out. He gets all the answers on social media. I want to believe that's not the case, but sometimes.
I wonder if you were feeling a little hurt. I wonder if it was a little bit wounding, him rejecting some of your advice.
I just feel like, it's the same old story. We came here for them. We sacrificed for them. And when we want to impart some kind of, experience or wisdom, it's not really accepted. So just, you figure it out on your own then. Wouldn't have happened when I was a teenager.
I wonder if there's some cultural differences in terms of adolescence being a time of getting independence from your parents. And in some countries, that pulling apart from the parent is less drastic than in the United States and takes longer, or actually continues to be this very tight link for a long time. You may feel like he's being disrespectful, but maybe he didn't mean it that way.
Maybe.
I'm also wondering, you did say something about it being the third time that he's had this bad grade. I wonder if it's just the grade. What if there's something else going on?
My wife and I have talked about that, but I just haven't found the right time to bring that up.
Bharat, if there were something going on, and I'm not saying that there is, but if there were, would you feel more like talking about it now when he's been bringing it up this way, or would you feel less like talking about it?
I definitely not want to talk about it because, I mean, I just feel worse now after talking to my dad. And if I'm feeling worse, I just feel like walking away rather than talking about anything else that might be going on. It's just not a comfortable situation for me to express my feelings.
So sometimes bad grades can be because of study habits, that's possible, but sometimes a drop in grades can be because of other things. And so the youngster can be dealing with other problems. Something like bullying that is not something that he started could manifest with grades. And I know that you felt like you were motivating him by talking about how hard you worked, but the effect might be for him to feel worse about himself and less likely to bring up something that's troubling him. I know that in real life, we don't have the chance to press rewind and replay, but since this isn't real life, you want to do that again?
Let's try.
Okay. And action.
Dad,
Bharat?
you know that test I took last week, the math test?
Yeah? One you worked very hard for.
Yeah, I got a 48.
A 48. I'm guessing that's not 48 out of 50.
Yeah, I got a 48%.
I'm sorry, that's got to be so disappointing. Sit down. Beta, what's going on? This is the third time this semester, but what's happening?
I don't know. I tried really hard on this test. It's just too hard. And I feel like I need to just drop down a math level.
Dropping down, I don't get that. I mean, I talked to Sanjeev's mom, he's getting A's on all the tests. Somebody you know well, I don't, okay, I know, I'm not supposed to. That tough habit to break.
Dad, I just hate it when you compare me to Sanjeev.
I'm sorry.
When I tell you my friends are doing a lot of fun things, you tell me, oh, don't compare. Like, it's not good to compare to people. But this is exactly what you're doing. Like, you're such a hypocrite.
I know, I'm sorry, you know, look, your mom and I, we have talked about, you know, you're working so hard, you're not getting these results. Listen, why don't you talk to your teacher? Send a message tonight, she'll pick it up tomorrow, you'll find a way. She's got a lot of experience, she'll find a way for you to go forward.
Yeah.
How about if you do that, then we can talk and find out what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good idea.
Okay. Now, but is there anything else going on?
I mean, I don't know. I just feel really bad because I feel like all my friends are doing really well and everyone's acing their tests and I'm the only one failing. And at the same time, I just feel like I'm not living up to the expectations of you and Mom. I just feel like I'm just not good enough.
Okay, I get that. First of all, I am positive without looking at all the grades, you're not the only one suffering. This is a very hard class you're taking. Okay. Second of all, this math is not for Mom, it's not for me, it's for you. Okay. We have to find the right fit, the right time, the right class, the right teacher. This might not be it. If it means dropping down a lane, we drop down a lane. It's great you have that option, and we'll support you if that's what it takes. All right? Okay. Good.
Thanks. Thanks, Dad.
And freeze. That's a good place to stop right now. So how did that feel this time, Dad?
I had to pause, I had to take a breath, because again, I wanted to just get in there with my solution, because I'd been there before, so I knew, but I actually didn't know, because stopping a minute let me just hear what he was thinking. And so I didn't just jump in there with some magic solution. I always have the solutions because I've been there before, but this time I just decided I'm just going to wait, try to listen.
Bharat?
Yeah, I mean, it felt a lot better. I actually felt like my dad understood how I felt and how I wasn't feeling well because I wasn't doing well in my math class, and it just I just liked the fact that he didn't say I did all this stuff wrong. He kind of just understood that I needed some help.
What did people notice different in the second vignette, version 2.0, versus the first vignette? I noticed that you invited him to sit down this time. The first time, he never sat down. It didn't feel like there was going to be time to talk about things. And you really showed him that you valued what you wanted him to be comfortable. You wanted to show that you had enough time to talk. The first time, as you leaned on the chair, Bharat, it felt like you were protecting yourself from, from an enemy. And I think the second time, you really showed that you're not enemies. You're actually on the same side. And it felt a lot less attacking. What are some other things that he did? Either dad or son. You had a more open body posture. Things didn't go...
I had my arms crossed the first time.
Yeah. And so it really didn't feel like you were ready to be open. I mean, literally. I noticed that it didn't go perfectly the second time. It started out again with some conflict, but when it started going badly, you apologized. That's actually not easy for a lot of parents from different cultures, where apologizing to your offspring would be unheard of. And yet, for the child raised in this culture, where you see that it's a much more democratic family in the United States, people might apologize to their kids more often, and it might be something where people are more willing to hear feedback from each other. It's less authoritarian. And so this, I think, went pretty well.
I learned that from apologizing to my wife, actually. It usually gets the conversation going.
That's a very good thing. Being able to apologize is good. What are some other things that people may have noticed? I had a question from the audience a little bit earlier before we started about what to do. You mentioned social media. You mentioned some of these other temptations. And one question was, how do you get them off the internet? How do you control internet access or being on video games? We do have a vignette that we'll be doing on another night specifically to address this, called Too Much Video Games. But what can you do when your son or daughter is on social media all the time and so forth? What are some ideas? What does social media do for you?
I mean, it's just what everyone does. I mean, that's how I talk to my friends. That's how I watch videos. I mean, Snapchat is fun. I take pictures, send it to my friends, and it's just, that's how we communicate. No one makes phone calls anymore. It's just how it is.
You know, I noticed that last year's, first 2 years in high school, he always had his phone. And now I noticed that, I didn't say it in the heat of the moment, but he puts his do not disturb, when he's doing his homework, so that he's when he's focused on his work, he can do that. He tries not to be too distracted.
So we can't get rid of the social media. Yeah? The kids now have to do their homework using laptops. They're telling you where they are after school on their phone. So being completely without electronics is, fortunately or unfortunately, not realistic now, but it's something that's a constant distraction. So working on some of the solutions, such as being able to put a do not disturb, such as when they're working on their laptop, having the phone in another room, you might be able to work on that.
The other day, even he came to the kitchen table, my wife and I, we were delighted to see he is working on a Spanish project in the dining room table, away from the computer.
That's actually a very good solution, is to have your teenager be doing a lot of their work in the living room or the dining room, the kitchen, somewhere where everyone can sort of participate. And if they are getting too lost into something, then you can be there. I actually think that parents being aware as much as possible of social media, even though it's difficult, you can have more of a conversation with your child. So instead of it being all of it is bad, you can start a conversation. So if I can use an example, when one of these videos was very popular, Anaconda, if anybody remembers that. And, my first reaction was I was appalled, but then I sort of, thought, okay, what is the good part about this? My child is reaching out to me and saying, oh, this is funny. The kids at school think this is funny. And I would say, okay, I could see why that would be. What are some other things appealing about it? But then also talking about, well, is this sending a good message in terms of how boys and girls relate to each other? Is this talking about good body image? And so instead of it just being, you can't watch that, that's appalling, that's terrible, I had to admit, well, it's got a good beat and it's funny, but are there some downsides to it? Social media is also a way of staying in touch with your friends, and I think that because those of us who didn't grow up in the social media generation, we're not spending a lot of time on Snapchat, but on some level, this is part of how he connects. So we can't allow unlimited access, but by knowing more of what's happening, how should I put it? You can't do something about something that you don't know about. So you need to know if you have any ability to work on that. Questions written down, questions to bring up on microphone? Okay, so let's go over some of the things that we've learned tonight. A psychiatrist from Stanford that I know, actually named Shashank Joshi, once said, you need to connect before you correct your child. So connection before correction. And I think in the second episode, in the vignette 2.0, you were able to do that. And actually, if you guys want to break character and be able to stand up, so sitting down, you'll still be in character. Standing up, you can do that. I always think that in terms of South Asian and East Asian parents, that often where you grew up, success was like a ladder, very linear, and it feels like if you miss a rung, you'll tumble to the bottom of the ladder and never recover. And in the United States, success is very much like a mountain. There's many paths to the top. There is the ability to change paths and sort of meander a little bit. And there's many examples of this that we know, people who, dropped out of college, but then went on to become famous successes, people who made mistakes, and sometimes spectacular mistakes, and are still okay. And so the reality of the previous country might have been that people didn't come back from mistakes very easily. But in the United States, where the offspring are growing up now, it really is the case that you can do better. In our area, Silicon Valley, it can often feel like everybody who made it here from another country, was at the top of their class. But in the United States, there's actually a lot more wiggle room. There's a lot more ability to get a bad grade and recover from it. And actually, the process of trial and error, of being able to make mistakes and get a bad grade, is actually very much a part of the learning process. Bharat, are there any things that you wanted to make sure to highlight?
Okay, I'll break character. So, I just wanted to say that, when there's a culture gap between parents and their children, it's kind of a two-way street. So, I mean, there's things that parents can do differently, but there's also things children can do differently. So it's not just the parents that need to change, but you want to meet each other in the middle. Like, for example, if I'm gonna use a simple example, I Snapchatted this setup before it even took place, and I sent it to my friends. But sometimes I Snapchat excessively. I'll Snapchat at the dinner table when my dad's trying to have a conversation with me. So like that's when it's excessive. So yeah, I guess it's just important to meet in the middle.
Speaking of meeting in the middle, I'll break character as well. I think one of the most important things from this piece that I learned that reminds me of my role as a parent and also a psychiatrist is when something gets charged, to take a pause, to take a deep breath. And as a parent, I'm not going to get anywhere unless I'm going to listen first. And so that's what we tried to do in the redo is I felt very charged. And as you could see, my habits that I learned, which included trying to help him get better by comparing him to his friends, which is absolutely the wrong idea, which you saw come out in the second piece of the second vignette. So it's not perfect, but you learn by doing. So you got to find a way to keep the relationship going. And for parents, it has to start with listening. And then the second piece was asking him to sit down allows us to be at the same level so that the worst is if I'm standing up and he's sitting down because
Right.
then I'm the authority figure towering over him. But if we're at the same level, then we have a better ability to connect, and I have a better ability to listen.
You're really on the same side.
You feel like you're talking on the same side, and that also allows for things like if I want to talk to him in a at a quieter tone of voice, or put my hand on his shoulder, or connect in some way, it feels more authentic.
Thank you for watching Parents Playbook. This is the first in a series of vignettes that we have for East Asian, South Asian, Latino parents, 9, 10, and counting. And if you would like us to perform live at your school or community, please check out our website at stanfordchipao.com. Thank you so much for coming, our live audience. And please stay afterwards to ask questions if you'd like. For you, our viewers, please stay tuned for the next in our series.